Okay, we are in the Gemara in Taanis Chav Zayin and Aleph, and we're going to start from four lines from the top. Elohim ma'amados l'fisha nemer savas b'nei Yisrael. So these are the amados. We have to turn back to Chav Vav in the mission over here. These are the amados. Rashi explains that they would fast and pray that everything would go successful with the korbanos that they would be bringing on behalf of their brothers, the sacrifices they would be bringing on behalf of their brothers. So the Gemara over here says, "My Kamar, what exactly is going on?" Because the Mishnah then proceeds to quote a pasuk. Pasuk doesn't seem to provide a reason; it's just a source for this. My Kamar, what's the Mishnah saying? Hachi Kamar, this is what it's saying. Elohim ma'amados, these are the ma'amados. Umatam tiknu ma'amados. What's the reason that they were established? Lefi shenemar, because the pasuk says, "Savas b'nei Yisrael v'amarta le'em es korban ilach milishai." Pasuk says, "Command them to bring the korban." How could a person's korban be brought if he's not standing by there? That's why the earlier prophets enacted that there's going to be 24 watches. And this is basically happening. You point someone, and the messenger, when your messenger performs what you pointed them to do, it's as if you yourself did it. V'shel Yisraelim. On every single watch, they would appoint in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, Kohanim Levim and Yisraelim. Higiaz ma mishamer la'Allah is Kohanim Levim oilim Yerushalayim. Once the time reached for the watch to go up, so then the Kohen Levi, they would go up to Yerushalayim. Tana Rabbanim, we have a brisa. Esrim v'arba mishmaros. You had 24 of these watches. Be'eretz Yisrael in Israel. V'shtayim asara b'Yericho. And you had 12 in Yericho. The obvious question is, Shtayim asara b'Yericho? Nefishin lahu tuva. You had 12 in Yericho, so then you had too many. 12 plus 24 is 36, and we just said there are only 24. How could that be that there are 12 in Yericho? The Gemara answers, El Shtayim asara mehem b'Yericho. No, there were 24 watches, but 12 of them were in Yericho. See the Yehoshua playlist for more about Yericho. Once the time approached for the watch to go up, so then half of the watch would go from Israel to Jerusalem. And half of the other half, as we just said, the 12, they would go to Yericho Kedei in order in order that they could provide their brothers in Jerusalem with water and with food. Amr Rav Yehuda Amr Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Kohanim v'Levim Yisraelim ma'akfinis a korban. A Kohen Levi in Yisrael could withhold a korban. B'masnis and Tano says in a braiso. This is a Tosefta actually in our Masechta in Perek Gimel, the beginning. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Oimer the Bached. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says Kohanim v'Levim v'kli shir ma'akfinis a korban. It's the Kohanim and the Levim and their instruments which could withhold the validity of the korban. So we have a fundamental argument whether it is actually the people who prevent it from happening, meaning you need the Kohen, Levi, and Yisraelim, or if you need the instruments. What are they arguing about? They hold this song needs to be primarily done with the mouth or with the vessels, aka the instruments. And that would be based on the argument. Obviously, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar is going to hold that you need the instruments. Amar Rav Chama bar Gudia, Amar Rav Chama, the son of Gudia, said in the name of Rav Moshe Tikin Lehem Yisrael, Shemoine Mishmaros, Arba Me'elazar, Vidalid Me'itamar. Moshe enacted that the Jews are going to have 8 watches, 4 from Elazar, and 4 from Itmar. Ba Shmuel v'Amidim Alu Sheishasara. Shmuel came along and he said that no, that they're actually going to be 16. Ba David v'hamidal esrim va'arba. David came along and said they're going to be 24. Shneimar, as the pasuk states, b'shnasar abadim malchus David, the 40th year when David was reigning in Jerusalem, behem kibur echal. They found strong people. Yazer Gilad. In that location, Meisve, we have an attacking statement. Moshe tigan ham Yisrael shmoina mishmaros arba me'elazar va'arba me'itmar. Moshe established that the Jews are going to have 8 watches. 4 are going to be from Elazar and 4 are going to be from Itmar. Ba David v'Shmuel v'hamidem al esrim va'arba. David and Shmuel simultaneously came along and said that there's going to be 24. So what was it? Were they separate or they were the same? Hachi Kamar answers the Gemara. No, this is what they were saying over here. Miyasoidu shel David v'Shmuel and Ramasi midum al esrim arba. From the foundation of David and Shmuel, that's when they established the 24. It was both, but not simultaneous. Tanyidoch, we have another brayse. Moshe and Tikon Yisrael sheish asara. Moshe established 16, which is obviously different than we said before. Mishmaros of these watches, Shemoinim Elazar, Vishmoinim Itmar, 8 from Elazar, 8 from Itmar. So it doubled over here from what we said before. Kisharabu b'nei Elazar al b'nei Itmar. When the children of Elazar, they became more great in number, greater number than the children of Itmar. Cholkum vehemidum al esrimar. And they split them up and they said it's going to be 24. Which numbers the pasuk says v'imchu b'nei Elazar rabim l'roisha giburim me b'nei Itmar v'yachlu b'nei Elazar roishim lebeis avoi shisha asar b'nei Itmar lebeis av v'shmarnu. You clearly see from the pasuk. V'oimer, now the pasuk says beis avechad achuz l'Elazar v'achuz le'Itmar. Ma'ava Omer, why do you need a second pasuk to teach us this point? Chitema, maybe you'll see ki echad in Fishim Elazar, achanami in Fishim Itmar. Just like you have a lot of the children of Elazar, so too by Itmar. That's what you have to say. Shmoina. That no, that right now Itmar is going to be the children are going to be 8 watches. Mikara arba havi. However, originally they were 4. Tashma. That's why the pasuk comes to teach us. Tashma. Okay, fine, good. Come. Tashma, come and listen. Beis avechor achuz l'Elazar v'achuz chos litmar tiyufta Rabbi Chama bar Guria. We have a knockout over here on Rabbi Chama bar Guria, who we came out with, because we see that the number is different. That's what we see from over here, and that's going to be the problem. And that's what's going to reject what he said previously. Because he said that it's going to be 2 groups of 4, and over here now we see it's 2 groups of 8. Ruchama bar Guria would say, Tanahi. The truth of the matter is that this is subject to an argument among the Tanaim. And I hold like the Tana who says that it's going to be 8. Tana Rabbana, we have a brayso. Arba mishmaros, olumina goylo. 4 watches that came up from the exile. This is talking about, as Rashi explains, in the second Beis Hamikdash. Some people didn't want to go back to the Beis Hamikdash with Ezra over there, and they remained in that they didn't go back. So you 24 groups of Elahain, and these are the groups that went. Yediyah, Chodim, Pashchor, and Yimar, all of them. Adu Nevi'im Shebeneim, the prophets from among them stood up. V'chalkum, and split them up. V'hamidim al esrim ba'arba. And now they said that there's going to be 24. And that's what they did. And they wrote like a nickname for each one. Bolalum, and they mixed the names over there. V'nosnum b'klipi, and they put it in a box. But Yediyah v'natul chilek v'chelech chaveru sheish. Yediyah came and he took his portion, and the portion for his friend, and it was 6. Ba'chidim v'natul chilek v'chelech chaveru sheish. Same thing with Chirim. V'chein Pashchor, similarly with Pashchor. V'chein Yimar, similarly with Itmar. V'chein Hisnu v'yim shibaneim. And that's what they stipulated, the earlier prophets from among them. Sha'afilu Yeho Yerid. There's actually different gears. Yeho Yidiv or Yeho Yiriv. Roish Mishmaros Oila or Yidchi Yadim Makayma. The head of the watch will not push off Yediyah from his place. El Yediyah Ikar, rather Yediyah will be the main. Yehori V'Yeho Yiriv Tafalo, and Yehoriv is going to be secondary to him. Yisrael Shabbos the Mishmar and the Jews in that watch, they would enter into the cities and they would lane from the creation of the world. How do you know this? What's the pasuk that teaches us this? Amar Rabbi Yaakov Barach, Rabbi Yaakov the son of Acha teaches us. Amar Ravashi, in the name of Ravashi. Had it not been for these watches, so then the heavens and the earth wouldn't exist. And the pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem Elokim Amalek Yerushalayim." Hashem says, "How do I know that I'm going to inherit it?" So we see the importance of these mamados. The entire world wouldn't exist had it not been for them. Look at the importance of them, that they're dealing with the korbanos. So then they quote the pasuk where Vayomer Hashem Elokim. Avram says, Hashem b'mai da ki Yerushalayim. How do I know that my children are going to inherit the land? Avram said, Rabbeinu Shaloilo, Master of the world, Shem Yisrael Choitin Lefanecha, Ata Oisim Lehem Kedura Mabul V'Kedura Flago. Maybe if the Jews are going to sit in front of you, you're going to do to them like the generation of the Mabul and the Haflago. Amar Leilahav. Hashem said no. Amar Lefanav Rabbeinu Shalodim B'Marishana. So he said, Hashem, Avram said, Hashem, please tell me, how do I know that I'm going to inherit it? Amrali, he said, "Kechali eglo mishuleshes veiz mishuleshes v'goymer." Take from me the calf, and that's going to be symbolic that they're going to be successful with the korbanos. Amar so he said in front of him, Rabbeinu Shaloilo, Avram said, Master of the world, Tinach Mizman Beis Hamikdash Kayim Mans, Man Shein Beis Hamikdash Kayim Matia Alehem. This is only good when the Beis Hamikdash is standing and is around, and then they have the ability to bring the korbanos. But when it's not around, what's going to happen to them? Amarlo Hashem said, Kfar tekanti lahem seder korbanos. I already established for them an order for the korbanos. Bizman shekoidin behem. At the time when they're reciting the korbanos, when they're learning about the korbanos, this is similar to the end of Menachos Kol Ha'isik B'Torah Soyakilu Hikra Vaylo. When they're involved with it, when they're leaning and when they're reading from the Torah about it, Zman shekoidin behem lefonai in front of me. Malel le'anechem kilu yakrivum lefonai. I consider it as if they brought the korbanos in front of me. Vani moichel lehem al kol v'noseim, and I will forgive them for all of their sins. We see the importance over here of bringing korbanos, and nowadays that we don't have the korbanos, we have Tisha B'Av around the corner. Unfortunately, the unfortunate reality is that most people don't even realize that they're lacking because they never had to it, and what the Beis Hamikdash represents. But we see from over here the importance about learning about the korbanos. Seder Kodshin, very important to learn about this. Sefer Vayikra, these areas of Torah that no one learns, it's like a mace mitzvah shein lakoivrim. It's like there's a dead body on the street and no one's burying it. We discussed this at Lent on Parshas Vayikra many years ago. Toner Rabbanon, we have a brayso. Anshi Mishamer Hayu, big comment from the Chafetz Chaim in his Lakuti Halachas on Kachim. He talks about it also, the importance. Toner Rabbanon, we have a brayso. Anshi Mishmar Hayu Mispalin Korban Achiyim. She is Kabu Barotzen. Anshi Maimud Miskansin LeBeis HaKnesses V'Yoshin Dal Taanis B'Shein B'Shabbos B'Shlishi B'Reviu B'Chamishi. Brayso says that for these different watches, they would daven on the korban for their brothers. They would pray for their brothers that it should be accepted willingly. And the Anshe Maimed, who were them? This is what we discussed already a while back in our Masechta. The Anshe Maimed, they would gather into the shul and they would sit for 4 fasts. They would sit on Monday, that's Sheni B'Shabbos, Shlishi B'Ravi, that's going to be Tuesday, and Wednesday B'Chamishi on Thursday. B'Sheni Al Yordei Yam, on the second day, on Monday, they were praying for the people who were traveling by sea. B'Shlishi, on Tuesday, Al Hoichim Baros, people who are walking in deserts or dangerous areas. B'Ravi, on Wednesday, Al Askra, type of death which could happen through choking. It's one of the worst types of deaths you could get. Gemara and Brachos Chasam Aleph. Shalotipa al tinokas, that it shouldn't fall on the children. Bechamishi, on Thursday, al ubrus uminukos, on women who were pregnant and nursing. Ubros, the pregnant women, shalo yapilu, so that they shouldn't miscarry. Menikos, those who were nursing, shianiku as beneim, that they should successfully nurse their children, and there would be no medical issues involved there. The Erev Shabbos, lo hayim esanim meikavra Shabbos, kavachom Shabbos atmo. On Friday itself, the eve of Shabbos, they would not fast because in honor of Shabbos, and certainly this applies on Shabbos itself. Shabbos, my time low on the first of Shabbos. On Sunday, why wouldn't they fast? Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Mipnei ha-noitzrim, because of the other people who weren't Jewish, as Rashi explains, they had a yontif, they were making a holiday on their day, and if all the Jews were fasting, then it would become dangerous. They would be like, what are you doing on our holiday? Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nechmani Amar, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nechmani says, it's a third day from creation. As Rashi explains that, as we know, man was created on Friday, add 3 days to that, then you get Friday, and then Shabbos, etc. So that's going to be a problem because people are going to be weak then. So that's why you don't want to do it. Reish Lakish says because you have this extra soul. That what happens? The extra soul is given to us on Shabbos. We have a parallel Gemara to this exact Gemara over here in the Gemara in Shabbos, first place in Shas when it comes up on Daf Yud, but also Beitz Tezayin, the extra soul that comes to us on Shabbos. Reish Lakish, because Reish Lakish tells in Shabbos Nisna Boy Be'adam B'Erev Shabbos that this extra soul is given to us on Friday, B'Moitzi Shabbos and after Shabbos it's taken from Shenemar. The pasuk says Shabbos v'Nafash. That is Shabbos v'Nafash Kevon Shabbos. Once a person rests, Voy Avda Nefesh. Woe to the soul that is lost. Shem Yasir, there's a whole misconception based on really a Rashi primarily in Bates over there in Tezayin, but also Rashi spells this out. And Shem Yasir, right over here, Rashi writes, a person's mind becomes wide for eating and drinking. Really, if you look at the Shitum Mikobetzis over there in that Gemara in Bates, he basically said that in Shem Yasir is Siyata Deshmayin or Limra Torah. It's a special divinely assistance that we get in our Torah learning. which is very important because people a lot of times overlook what Shabbos is about and represents. As we know, it's brought. We learned in Hilchos Shabbos, if I'm not mistaken, Simon Reish Sadi over there. The Torah over there says he quotes an interesting medrash. Whole question the exact location of this medrash, but that's a side point that the Torah comes along and says to Hashem when they were in the midbar, they were in the desert for 40 years, they had everything taken care of, they had their food, they had their drinks, they had their clothing that was growing with them, they were protected, they had not only covered the clouds of glory, the bear of Miriam, they had them on, they had the stuff, etc. They were taken care of. What's going to happen when they're going to Israel, the land? Everyone's going to be involved with business, they're going to be involved with their fields, their farming. When are they going to learn me? Hashem said, no, don't worry, Shabbos, they're going to learn you on Shabbos. That's when they're going to learn you, and then they're going to be taken care of. Then the Mishnah over there quotes a Zohar, and he says that the Neshama Yisera, that it's going to be asked after every single Shabbos when it goes up, what did you learn this Shabbos? And primarily, what were you machadish? What insight did you come up with? And if you didn't come up with an insight, at least learn something new. So that's the din Neshama Yisera. The Neshama Yisera is not going to come up and say, oh, I had an extra meatball as an appetizer. I had an extra piece of meat or potato in the cholent over here. That the food is only a means to an end to get to the learning. So says Shabbos. We have to make Shabbos, make it through learning Torah, doing this, etc. Not just overstuffing ourselves and then just taking a nap and wasting the whole essence of what Shabbos is about. Mar continues and says, on the first day, that's when they would learn Bereshis. Tano, we have a statement over here. We have a brisa, Bereshis b'shnayim. Bereshis would be laned with two people. Kohen Levi, as Rashi explained. Yehirakia be'echad. Yehirakia would just be laned with one. Bishlam Yehirakia be'echad, tlasap sukkah havi. We understand, it's easy to understand, but Bishlama, Yehirakia is going to be done with one because it's three psukkah, and that's good. We understand that Ela Bereshis b'shnayim. My time is Samed, hey psukkah. Hawaiian. Oh, but Bereshis with two, how can you do it? It's only five psukim. Vitano or Vitnan, different texts over here. Someone who leans from the Torah cannot lean from less than three psukim. There's a three psukim minimum. You have to have three psukim. How could you only lane five over here and split it with two? You don't get three last time I checked. Rav Amar, like Rav says that you skip it, meaning you're gonna do a repetition over here. You're gonna skip the situation. Vishmuel Amar Poisik. Shmuel says that you stop. So this is going to be a very important machlokes over here of what to do. Rav Damar Doileg, my time Elohim Posek. Why doesn't Rav say like Shmuel? Kisavar kol psuka dolei paskinan, Moshe ramim lo paskinan. Any pasuk that Moshe didn't stop in the middle of, we also can't stop. That's why Rav doesn't hold that you could just stop in the middle. V'Shmuel Amar Posek. Shmuel says that you stop in the middle. Mi paskinan, how could you do so? How could you stop in the middle? Rabbi Chanina, who was a malamid psukim, who taught psukim, he said, Sargo delayali, there was a lot of pain by me. Etzel Rabbi Chanina, Agadol by Rabbi Chanina, Agadol they only allowed me to stop for the children who were learning in the yeshiva. Since they were learning, so they had to do it for learning. Stop in the middle in order to teach them properly. So the question is, how could you stop? Hassan, time am I over there? Over there, what's the reason? Mishum lo efshar, because it's not possible. Achanami lo efshar. Also over here, it is impossible. There's no other way, and therefore you could stop. Oh, Shmuel Amar Poisik, my time lo Amar Dolik. Why doesn't Shmuel go like Rav? It's a decree because of people who are entering and people who are leaving. If the second one is going to step and then start from the pasuk that the first person finished with, Rashi Taisus explained this. So Gemara Megillah primarily discusses this. So then people that are entering in that didn't hear the first aliyah, the first laning, they're going to say, oh, the first one only lane two psukim. And then that's going to be a major issue. What's Gezer Mishum Hayosin, the people who are leaving? So the idea over there is when the first person is going to lane only three psukim, and he's going to leave over two. So now people are going to leave, and they're going to say, oh, the second person, it's enough if he only reads two psukim. Major problem. We have an attacking statement. If you have a parsha that consists of six psukim, regular parshas, different parshas, Rashi explained. We're not talking about the parshas that we're talking about before. You have six psukim, very easy. Six, you divide it, split it in half, and you get three each. Right? You have two aliyos, three psukim for each. But if you have something that is five psukim over here, one person does that. If the first one's going to read three psukim, the second one reads two meparshas from this parsha, and then one from another parsha, because 2 + 1 is 3, so then you're good. Some say gimel, some say it's going to be three psukim from another parsha. And the reason is because you cannot begin a parsha less than three psukim. So the Gemara says, according to the opinion who said that you could skip, so then do that over there. And the repeat situation, and the person who says stop in the middle, so then just stop in the middle. Shiny Halsam answers the Gemara over there is different. The Islay Revcha, there is literally space, which means you're able to read from another parsha, as Rashi explains. Conversely, over here in the cases that we just discussed it before, there's no space because you have to specifically be reading from Bereshis and Vehi Birakia.